don't matter.
Board of County Commissioners now back in session. Next on the agenda will be Ms. Lisa Brett, Area Agency on Aging. Please come forward, state your name for the record.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman, Commissioners. Lisa Bretz, B-R-E-T-Z. You better get it right. I wanted to thank you for having me here again today. I bring you great news. I have had the privilege of working with 3 entities who are working to coordinate services for seniors in Franklin County. I've been working with Liberty County Senior Citizens Association, who, if you recall, is serving as our lead agency under the Community Care for the Elderly program, and therefore they're coordinating all home and community-based services that are grant-funded through the Department of Elder Affairs. I've also been working with the Franklin County Senior Center and Elder Care Community Council of Franklin County. Together, we have developed a cooperative agreement to demonstrate that we are working together, that we are coordinating a system of care that will ensure all seniors within Franklin County's limits will receive appropriate services and access to services through information and referral and outreach. And I know that I sent Michael a copy. Did you each receive a copy of the agreement? I did want to clarify to you, I have, since I've been here, obtained 2 signatures. And the third one will be obtained by Liberty County Senior Citizens Association. This does not include funding that is associated with services to be delivered. Those will be developed through separate memorandums of agreement. I am currently very delighted to tell you that I am in negotiations with Elder Care Community Council. I do want to acknowledge both Franklin County Senior Center and Elder Care Community Council. I want to be sure that you are aware of the volunteer services that are being delivered to support those services to your seniors. They do not have paid staff delivering services to the community. So any monies that they receive from you go directly towards supporting facilities or bringing guest speakers in or whatever the case may be to provide a nice space for seniors to come and obtain services. Elder Care Community Council will be a newly funded program in your county. They are already providing a great wealth of services at Holy Family Center. We hope to be able to bring the services that we have currently at the Armory back into Holy Family. The only services that Liberty County really needed from Holy Family was to store frozen meals and to prepare packaging for delivery of those meals. So we're hoping that through this cooperative agreement, we'll be able to bring everything back to one site instead of having multiple locations in one city. We are working very hard to ensure that seniors do know how to access those services, so we will all 4 entities be working to promote the Elder Helpline, which, as I have stated to you before, the importance of that number, rather than having a local number for people to access, is this will allow screening to be conducted for individuals to determine the array of services that they may be eligible for. And this includes the Medicaid managed long-term care. So not only do we have to provide local services to promote engagement, social engagement of our seniors and healthy eating, but also to ensure they have access to any other services that may help them for their long-term care. And I have friends back here, thank you, gentlemen. I have 2 other entities here. Liberty County did not make it today, and I will entertain any questions or comments that you might have.
So your recommendation is to enter into this agreement in order to provide a coordinated and deliverable product to the seniors of Franklin County, is that correct?
Yes, sir. One thing that we have not had evidence of to provide for the commission or the citizens of Franklin County is that you do have many entities that are working together to provide services to seniors. So we wanted to bring that together in one document to show evidence not only to the commission, but the value of this coordinated effort to your citizens.
Any questions of the board member? Comments, questions?
I have a question, Mr. Chairman. Ms. Lisa, first off, I want to say thank you to all entities involved. I'm assuming this is going to be a bigger push to make sure there are no overlapping things happening Therefore, none of our seniors should be falling through any kind of crack or any kind of, that's what I'm assuming. Is that
Yes, sir, that was the impetus behind the development.
Okay. Thank you very much.
I got a question
Mr.
on,
Lockton?
on that Holy Family deal. I mean,
Yes, sir.
did they get the cost down for what they were charging? I mean, because we want the money to go to the people.
Right. I believe because the city sees the value in what Elder Care Community Council is providing, that they have established a great working relationship with the city. Area agency is totally uninvolved in that relationship.
Okay. So you think it's gonna work out?
Yes, sir, I do believe so.
That's good.
I just have one thing to ask you, Lisa. You said that the ECCC is going to be doing the Meals on Wheels. Are y'all going to continue to do the Meals on Wheels in Carabel?
Yes, ma'am. We are, for home-delivered meals, Liberty County Senior Citizens has the contract for that under the Older Americans Act. The Elder Care Community Council has been providing meals for community residents who come to Holy Family. They have not requested in the past any reimbursement. They are not receiving any money under the Older Americans Act.
Okay.
What we are working on is a memorandum of agreement for them to receive money that you've allocated for us to administer. So we're looking at developing a memorandum of agreement to pay them for their volunteer efforts.
I just want to make sure nobody falls through the cracks.
Yes, ma'am. And that's one of our major issues, is making sure that, you know, people can call anywhere in the community, but if we have a concerted effort to advertising the Elder Helpline and advertising what people can receive when they call, whether it be the Senior Center, Elder Care Community Council, or Liberty County, that they understand that they're all working together to ensure that all aspects of service delivery are addressed.
Mr. Massey, you got any comments?
You working with the senior citizen in Carabel?
Yes, sir.
Are they happy?
Mr. Moore?
Somewhat.
Well, if you got anything to say, I want you to say it today where I can know what's going on. Okay? All right. Because we got everybody here together now.
And I'd just like to put out there that the elder helpline for this community is 1-800-963-5337. If you need services or you have questions about services, that is your hotline for the citizens to call and get the information that they need.
Yes, sir.
And I want to get that out on TV, so maybe some of our seniors watching this production today will have that number. Any other questions for the board? Everyone understand exactly what Ms. Lisa is presenting here today? I think she's looking for a motion and a second to implement this particular protocol. Pleasure of the board.
So moved.
We have a motion on the floor by Commissioner Lockton. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Sanders. Any further discussion? Any questions? All those in favor? All opposed? The motion carries. We do appreciate you bringing this to the public's attention today,
Thank you very much.
and continue the good job.
Thank you.
Next on the agenda, we have Ms. Marsha Johnson, clerk of the court. Let the record reflect clerk had no report today. We'll go into public hearings, local planning agency.
That's correct.
Board of County Commissioners will now recess, and we'll open the meeting up, public hearing up, local planning agency. 6-month moratorium on all applications for development on an area generally described as the area between 3rd Street West and 3rd Street East, St. George Island, Florida.
All right, Mr. Chairman, if I may, this is the meeting of your local planning agency. The county commission acts as the LPA. Primary purpose of that is for you to receive some input and advice from your planning attorney, Mr. David Theriak, to receive public comment and also to have board discussion, but you will not be voting as the LPA to approve the ordinance. You will then close the LPA and go into your public hearing as the county commission, at which point you will go through a similar process, but you will be voting one way or the other. Mr. Theriak?
Good morning, Commissioners. My name is David Theriak. It's a pleasure to be here. What you have before you is a 6-month temporary moratorium on certain categories of applications for development approval, essentially to protect the gateway to St. George Island. As y'all probably know, a moratorium is a planning tool. It's essentially a timeout to allow a local government to adopt rules and regulations to address particular issues that are of concern to the community. Moratoriums are used all over the country, including Florida. I've been representing local governments throughout Florida for many years and have participated in the adoption of several moratoriums. Again, it's nothing more than a 6-month timeout to allow y'all to draft regulations to protect a particular issue. In this case, this moratorium is designed to allow for a timeout to build or draft regulations to protect the character and the gateway for St. George Island. As you all know, you get one first impression, and what the purpose of this moratorium is to draft regulations to create and protect that first impression as you come over the bridge, make landfall, and come into St. George Island. I recently did a gateway overlay for the city of Alachua for the same purpose. As people get off I-10 on the way to their new Main Street, they wanted to have a set of regulations that would address the types of uses that would be okay in that area, design criteria, architectural standards, so that there would be that first impression that the city wanted to make. And this ordinance is the first step in that process. Right now, you have a 2,100 foot radius that we originally proposed. All properties that are within that 2,100 foot radius would be captured, except for, and this is in paragraph 2 of your proposed ordinance, exempts all properties located within a 2,100 foot radius of the center point of the intersection of Gulf Beach Drive and Franklin Boulevard with a zoning designation of R1 Single Family Residential District in publicly owned lands from the 6-month temporary moratorium. So those types of properties would be exempt. And then you also have a carve out in the second whereas on the second page where it states the phrase application for development approval shall include, but not be limited to, any application and or request for a site plan approval, a building permit, and a change of use, but shall exclude all building permits for the maintenance and repair of existing structures. So if somebody needs to repair or maintain an existing structure, they would not be captured by this moratorium, and the replacement of existing structures. And I would recommend a tweak here on the second prong, the replacement of existing structures that have been damaged by a storm or a fire. You don't want to open the Pandora's box that somebody just bulldozes an existing structure and says they're not exempt, they're now exempt from the moratorium. So I would want to tie it to some type of damaged structure, not so they can just bulldoze an existing structure and be exempt. There is an alternative that we've also looked at. Would you be kind enough to hit that, sir? We looked at whether an alternative to the property subject to the gateway would be something that would be more desirable to the commission. Your county attorney, Michael Schuler, asked me to see if I could refine the scope. And what we've done here is essentially, as you're coming over the bridge, we would capture the properties that you would see as you're coming over the bridge. And as you make landfall, you see that center core, and it would, I don't have a pointer, but if you look to the southwest and the southeast, you have one in there? Thank you, sir. Just the pointer. It's up there. Ah, there we go, thank you. Lawyers and high tech, they don't go together, sorry. This part here was in yellow, or was part of the overlay to begin with. We've not put it in yellow, so this area here would be exempt, and this area here would be exempt. The new overlay district area that we're focusing in on for the moratorium will be just the part that's in yellow. And the logic here was, to the extent you wanted to refine the scope of the moratorium, properties such as this, you're probably not seeing as you're coming over the bridge. And you're not seeing that property when you're making landfall and getting your first experience when you come into the commercial district. And it's the same thing on the southeastern portion. We're perfectly comfortable going with the original 2,100-foot radius, if that's what the board desires, or we can defend narrowing the scope a little bit more to the area in yellow, whatever your pleasure is. In fact, this morning I was reading, there's a Supreme Court case called Lake Tahoe, and there they were trying to protect the water quality of Lake Tahoe, and the moratorium in that instance ended up being 32 months long, and the Supreme Court upheld that, including applications that were pending at the time of the moratorium was adopted. So this is a well-established planning tool. So I think the threshold question for y'all is, do you want to have gateway regulations to protect the character as you come into St. George Island? And if you do, provide this time out to staff to draft those regulations. That's your threshold. And then your second prong is, what is the area that you want subject to those new regulations in the moratorium? The circle or the area in yellow? I'd be happy to answer any questions.
My main question is where is the boundaries of the commercially zoned property on the island?
Michael?
Third Street to Third Street.
That's all commercially zoned property on the island?
Everything outside Third Street to Third Street, talking to Mr. Carrington, is residentially zoned properties.
Okay.
So that's why he made the exemption, because 2,100 feet goes beyond Third Street. That's why he made the exemption that residential R1 zoning is not exempt to the moratorium.
Because all of them would be.
Would be exempt.
Oh, I'm sorry, would be, I'm sorry.
Hang on, answer my question.
Yeah, would be exempt.
Would be exempt.
So those blocks in the middle of the island, the yellow, and you got two sides that are white, but all of that is commercial property, correct?
Between Third Street and Third Street.
There's Third,
That's third and
and then there's Third over here.
That would be classified as a commercial district.
I can see that a bit easier.
We don't have one yet.
Everything between Third and Third is commercial, whether it's highlighted in yellow or whether it's in white, it's
Okay.
still commercial, Mr. Chairman.
Okay.
Just from Third Street to Third Street.
I will say virtually all of Gulf Shore Boulevard on the shoreline, on the Gulf side is developed. So some of that's highlighted, some of it's not. I don't know if there are any vacant lots over there. There might be one or two on Gulf Shore Boulevard, but it's pretty well developed out.
And this would also capture redevelopment in case somebody were looking at redeveloping something that was out of date.
And your suggestion that an existing structure could be replaced, or you're talking about, like you said, fire, and then you're talking about like storms, hurricanes, something other than caused by yourself?
That's what my recommendation would be, is to tweak that language so that you make it a natural disaster, a fire, a storm, rather than somebody showing up at midnight and bulldozing and saying, my building's gone, I get to be exempt from the moratorium.
Okay. You're saying Bay Shore, Alan, that's on that'd be on the bay right there?
No, I didn't, I meant Gulf Shore if I said Bay Shore.
Okay.
It says Bay
Not
Shore.
Golden Beach.
It says Bay Shore.
I mean, Gory's not even listed on there. Gory Drive, all these, there are a series of lots here. This is where your skinny minis are over there, some over here, your bucket here. So all the property on the shoreline, on the Gulf is pretty well built out. I was just making that as a quick comment.
Okay, okay.
Any questions? Otherwise, I'll open it up to the public.
Any other questions from the board members? That's the one we got here. You got one, Mr. Lockett?
Well, what happens if it take more than 6 months?
You can extend the moratorium, or the moratorium could expire, and then folks are free to pull permits, and you're still adopting regulations. What I've seen folks do, Commissioner, is sometimes 6 months can be a very short window by the time you deal with public hearings and allowing for a charrette and design criteria, and they might extend it for a couple months afterwards, but I've rarely seen it go more than 8 or 9 months, even if there's been some delay in crafting regs of this nature. Fortunately, we're not looking at a large geographical area, and we're focusing in really when you're coming over the bridge where you're making landfall. So it's not as if you're doing a set of regulations for an entire community. You're really just capturing that business district and that first impression when you hit St. George Island. So it's relatively narrow of a geographical area, and I don't think you're looking at a long time to be able to craft those regs, if you desire to do so.
Real quickly, when I was on the planning and zoning board 14, 15 years ago, this issue come up again, the same issue of commercial district on St. George Island. And we redid some zoning stuff, went from C2 to C4, which allows you a mixed use, trying to allow the people some use of their property, because these are, you have to keep in mind, these are 25-foot lots, if I'm correct. So you gotta have multiple lots if you're gonna actually do a commercial venture on a 25-foot lot. You got setbacks on those lots, you gotta have a septic system on those lots. If you open a business, you gotta have parking for that business, all on a 25-foot lot. So this is not the first time that I've heard, and I'm sure the commissioners that were here during the time have heard this same thing about the commercial district on St. George Island. I'm sure Alan can attest to that too, because he was the county planner at the time. So there's always been a concern about the commercial district on St. George Island, what we want it to look like. Do we want to have, you know, strip malls? Do we want to have tattoo parlors? Do we want to have this? Do we want to have that? The latest thing to come up in the commercial district was the new dancing, I guess, that come up.
Adult entertainment.
Entertainment that come up, what, 2 years ago. So there's always been issues in the commercial district of St. George Island. This is not the first time that we have seen this. So I just want to put that out there, and I'm sure everybody in the audience remembers exactly what I'm talking about. So,
Mr. Chairman, I would chime in on that. In the city of Alachua, what prompted them was an adult toy shop was going to be the first thing you saw as you got off the interstate. And they're like, we spent all this time and effort redoing our main street. The last thing we want is, as you enter the city of Alachua, you see the big neon adult toy shop.
Right.
And that was the impetus for them to adopt one.
so these issues have come up several different times as far as what do we want the commercial district to look like, what businesses do we want to allow, and then there's the point of view that everybody wants to see something, but the people that want to see all the changes don't own the property within the commercial district. So, you know, you're trying to balance property rights as well as what the people that live there and pay taxes there, what they want to see, and you know, a lot of people retired on St. George Island, and that's not what they was there when they retired there and bought second homes there. So there's a host of issues that goes on within this commercial district as it comes to what people want to actually see there, and what makes sense to go in there, and what kind of zoning categories that we place in there. So this is not the first time. Any other comments from the board before we start receiving public comment?
Thank you, Commissioners.
Thank you. We will now open the floor up for public comment. We will do so in an orderly fashion. If you'd like to be recognized, raise your hand. Please come forward, state your name for the record. Okay, come on up, Ms. Joyce. We'll start with you. Please limit your comments to 3 minutes. As you can see, the building is full of people, and try not to be redundant. In other words, if someone stands up and says something, you agree with it, the commission has already heard it, then please allow the next person to speak, which may have a different perspective.
Mr. Chairman, Board, this is the first time I've ever come to you and asked for something from myself, but I own property. And the first picture that you see there is my building that I have over $300,000 invested in. What's next to me are derelict buildings that have had no one to take care of them, and they just walk off and leave them. Something needs to be done about the zoning in this business district, which I'm left out of this yellow part right here. I'm on East Pine Street. But to have invested 20 years ago on the island, there was a viable business next door to me. And because of, I guess, the economic downturn and everything, it has gone down by the wayside. And it's awful. It's terrible. And how do you protect your property when there's no zoning? So it has to be zoned some kind of way. With these derelict buildings, they need to be done away with, or some kind of zoning or ordinance to take care of those. Also, one of the buildings that you see is a steel building next to me. It's on a 25-foot lot. The rotten trailer is on that same lot. And the building, the the county gave permission to put that building there. When I built onto my building, I had to show you where my stormwater drainage was, and I had to show you where all of my parking would be. That building is there, it has no parking, no stormwater drainage, and no sewer. So I'm just asking you to think in terms of what is the future, but I'm sitting there in the middle of derelict buildings that need some kind of zoning. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Please state your name for the record.
Olivier Monod. I have been in business on St. George Island for, it is today my 30th year. I have two comments to bring. The first one is the role of St. George Island for the county. St. George Island provides an enormous amount of county revenues. Whatever is done on the island will have impact on the entire county, which I believe that this moratorium is not only a Franklin County, a St. George Island or a Ricky Jones district issue, but it is a county-wide issue. And as very well set forth by David Buriak, and I'm sorry if I mispronounce your name, the first impression is key, not only to the future of the island, but to the future of the county. And yes, Mr. Chairman, you mentioned that we have come back and forth. We've all agreed, I think, on the need to rethink the St. George Island commercial for a long time. I believe that now is the time. We need to there is a lot of expertise on the island and in the county. We need to rethink for the benefit of the islanders, for the benefit of the county. And if you do appoint a committee to rethink it, I volunteer all of my time for this. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Nick, come forward, state your name for the record.
David Duncan, on the construction company here in the county. I spoke with y'all last month. I appreciate your time. First thing I want to say is no disrespect to the attorney, but when he spoke about the 32 months in the Supreme Court, he's not mentioning the fact that that means somebody fought it. So it's going to cost our county money if people do fight it. So consider that he's willing to represent us as a county, but we're going to pay for it. The other thing is you have planning and zoning already in place, and you have you all. You have control. I just asked, y'all have the control. I'm not saying do, don't do. Look at what planning and zoning brings to y'all and vote on it. If you don't want to pass something, you don't have to pass it. But doing this whole coverage area is not solving the problem. Because then you're going to be in here with issues of who's going to put this here and what do you want here, and you're going to have arguments that's going to go on for a year or 2 years. How you planning and zoning meetings is what I ask. Come to your county commission meetings. If it goes to public hearing because somebody is opposing what they want to do, then y'all have the opportunity to not vote for it. But it does not take a moratorium to exercise that. Right now, we're in moratorium. I want to say that as well. I tried to submit a site plan the other day to P&Z. I was told that they're not accepting anything. So right now, we're already stopped. We're already stopped from working. So consider the months that I heard Mr. Lockley ask about a while ago is how long this stuff normally takes. Well, we're already in it. So if you vote for it, it's going to be 6 months, could be 8, could be, and we're going to be in these big arguments of what goes there. Y'all still have the control. What I'm asking is let it do its process through P&Z, through y'all. Y'all can still make decisions on individual properties. Thank you.
Thank you. Next.